Hey everybody, how's it going? I hope we're all having a great day. Today I'd like to explain something that's confusing to me. But before I do that, I wanted to point out, is that not a great view or what? The fully zoomed out Sony AX53 likely is not doing justice to the view out this window. I went outside to enjoy it and check my mail earlier, and when the door slammed shut, I had a snowball fall off of my roof on me, which is why I got this little round wet spot over here. But I thoroughly enjoy going outside from time to time and just enjoying the view out there. Get some nice clean air, some peace and quiet. So I wanted to talk about something that I find very confusing today. It says here in Bloomberg that Manhattan rents have surged to a record on demand for doorman buildings. It shows you the rents for just about every type of apartment, and as you can see, we are at a record high now. It's higher than it was in 2019, and there was a 23% climb in doorman buildings, 7.8% climb in non-doorman buildings. Now, what I find interesting here is they say the vacancy rate is low and that supply is getting tight. Vacancy is 1.7%, which is fairly low, if they're assuming they're reporting honestly. There's a couple of things that I want to dig into here. The first is that there's this idea that what's making stuff expensive across the country is not, interest rates being at an all-time low or any of the stimulus or the fact that it's people that are able to work from home that are deciding, why am I living in an expensive city, which is leading people to migrate from the more expensive states to the states that are more affordable. This is from census.gov, and you can see that Florida and California have lost about a few 100,000 people each, and I'm going to take a wild guess that most of this loss, again, this is a guess, is not coming from, Hanoi Falls in upstate New York, but rather from the more expensive and more densely populated areas that had more restrictions, like Manhattan, Brooklyn, Queens, and so on and so forth. And what I find interesting is that we've heard this idea that the reason real estate is going up around the country is because people are leaving San Francisco or New York City or places like that for places that have less restrictions that are also more affordable, or even if they don't have as much to offer, at least they're cheaper. Yet, if that's the case, if people are, if the reason that rent is high now in Custer, South Dakota or Boise, Idaho is because people are leaving New York City, and the actual population in New York as a state is going down, then how is it that when supply of apartments would go up because it's more available, demand goes down because people are leaving, the price continues to only go in one direction, up? I don't understand it. It's very confusing. Either A, there are a bunch of people renting apartments that I just don't see anywhere or don't understand, or B, there's something fishy with that vacancy rate. If they are actually renting more, if this census is updated and come, July of 2022, New York actually has a higher population than 2020 or 2019, the question that I would pose is why? What is driving that level of demand? I do a lot of videos walking around the city because you'll hear a lot of people talk about whether the city is dead or not, and I want you to actually see for yourself how many people are on the street in different areas, how many businesses are open, how many businesses are for lease, so that you can see for yourself rather than just trusting the news. And I've done a bunch of these little 30-minute to hour-long walk-arounds of the city. And there are many areas where they used to have a fairly vibrant bunch of businesses that are now just a bunch of for lease signs. And those for lease signs tend to stay there for 1 or 2 or 5 years because, as I mentioned in my real estate series, the landlords never lower the price, regardless of whether it is an unsustainable rent that is being requested. So what I find confusing is, what is the draw? What is it that makes 2021 Manhattan worth so much more than 2019 Manhattan? In 2019 Manhattan, there were more businesses open in the city. There were more restaurants. There were more bars. There was less crime. At the end of the day, what is it that makes 2021 Manhattan worth so much more money than 2019 Manhattan? I fundamentally do not understand it. There was this one experience that really solidified my decision to just open myself up to the idea of taking my car to some random state and just renting some cheapo apartment and to just kind of de-New York my mind. It was a restaurant that I used to go to clear my head from time to time. It was this really like hole-in-the-wall place, but it had a nice charm to it. They got kicked out of that place because the landlord had raised the rent, and they moved next door to a place that was mildly bigger. As a result of that, the prices went up. So instead of being able to pay like $7 or $8 to get this meal, I paid about $19.50 for it. So it was almost twice as much. But like, what, fine. I'll treat myself. It's close to Christmas time. Let's do it. So I get my meal, and they asked for my vaccine card before they took my order. So I showed them the vaccine card. I had a mask on and everything. I go to get my meal. I go to sit down and eat it, and they go, "Oh, you can't sit there because of the of COVID. We're not going to have anybody dine in." I'm just thinking, I didn't say this out loud. Again, I know it's not the employee's fault or their policy, but I just said, So what was the point of asking for my vaccine card? I'm like, I'm not going to say it out loud, whatever. So I go outside, it's 27 degrees with wind chill, and I'm sitting outside at a little table, freezing my ass off, eating food that used to cost $7 that now costs $19. And it just came to me like, what am I doing? Why? And many people will say this is a first world problem. And I completely understand. First world problem, you can't go to a restaurant, boo-hoo, blah, blah, blah. But at the end of the day, you have to understand. There's one thing that's very important to understand. It's completely okay to say, well, you don't need to do that. And you're correct, I don't need to do that, which is what I learned here, where I'm paying considerably less money. But if you're going to ask an all-time high in the rent, if you're going to charge an all-time high, if you're going to have a very high tax rate, if you're going to have very high property prices, essentially, my idea is that you need to sell me on that. You need to explain to me what it is that makes this zip code worth more than almost every other zip code in the country. Sell me. This place doesn't really have to sell me because it is very, very affordable, it is very quiet, it is very clean, and the people are nice. But if you're in an area where you have like a high quantity of assholes, where the taxes are high, where the rents are high, where the property prices are high, where you hear sirens all the time, I think that it's kind of on them to sell you. Okay, what is it that makes it worth this amount of money? And I can't tell you exactly why it is that was the particular moment where it clicked for me, but I just asked, what makes this experience worth more money than the experience that I would have had in 2019? I don't understand it whatsoever. So I'm really kind of curious here. Again, is when they talk about the vacancy rate being 1.7%, is this an actual vacancy rate based on real data that hasn't been doctored at all? Or like, what's going on? Is that vacancy rate correct? Is that vacancy rate incorrect? Is that vacancy rate correct because you have people purchasing up areas and lowering the supply of apartments to use real estate as speculation? Or are there actually people that are all flooding into Manhattan so that they can share the experience of spending $20 for a $6 meal that they get to eat outside with 27 degrees and wind chill? Like, I'm very curious. What do you think is the case? Either way, something that I'm finding is that while I find these articles fascinating, and while I find the idea that the quality of life, quality of opportunities, quality of entertainment, quality of number of businesses available to provide entertainment and hospitality and all that goes down, that prices go up, at the end of the day, I'm finding that I'm no longer interested as much in finding out the reasons why. What I am finding out is that I am interested in, kind of enjoying a little bit of the peace and quiet from 300 miles away. Let me know what you think in the comments down below. That's it for today. And as always, hope you learned something. Actually, that's actually perfect timing. Literally, the video ended. I said, hope you learned something right as my alarm went off. That is my time to get out of here. I'll see you all later. And that's that.